Chris, now apologetics can be intimidating. We've just heard you preach. We hear both of you talk so eloquently or erudite. We can't all teach the way that you guys do. Haven't had the time or the years to be able to study as you've studied. But the premise that we have in this book, The Gospel After Christendom, and what we teach here at Beeson Divinity School is that apologetics is for the whole church. How can those two things go together at the same time when they hear people who have studied all these things and they feel, I'm never going to catch up to that? How can it be for everybody else too?
I, I think the three-word answer is 1 Corinthians 12, that every gift is given for the whole church. And so Josh and myself and others have a certain ability to write and to use arguments, but we need to be jolly careful that we're using that to serve the whole church. Let me take an example that might help us to see. There's a couple at my home church in Australia that are just wonderful at hospitality. They've got this fire pit going on Friday evenings that people come along to, and I invite their friends. And if there's someone at church who's by themselves, you will see one of these couple beside them within 30 seconds. They're just really, really good. Got a special gift at welcoming people and showing hospitality. Now, how do I respond to that as someone who's a little bit more awkward and doesn't have that gift? Well, first of all, I rejoice in it. I'm so glad they're in our church. So it's lovely. They are helping the rest of us to see how to welcome people and how to fold people in and to create a porch for the church where outsiders can become insiders. And I also learn from them. Oh, that's the first line he used with that person he didn't know. I'm trying to remember that next time. Or, oh, I see. I noticed that person as well, but I didn't go and sit with them. And now I see she's sitting with them. Okay. Note to self. And so I'm rejoicing in them and learning from them. And I think that's the case with all of our gifts, isn't it? If we use that image from 1 Corinthians 12, we're all bits of the body. Josh and I, no offense, Josh, but we might be the toenails on the body. The apologists. We're doing our toenail thing. And
better be clipped or else you become.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. need cleaning. And we're doing our toenail thing, and the whole body is benefiting, but we're not any other part of the body. And everybody is a part of the body doing an irreplaceable job, but it's the whole that benefits. And apologetics is just a tiny little bit of that bigger picture.
Josh, let's turn to pastors. This is the work that you're primarily engaged with. Hey, let's got a couple of questions here. One, why should pastors study apologetics? And that includes in the seminary, but also how does that relate to any trends that you're seeing in apologetics today?
Yeah. No, I do see more interest in apologetics. I think one of the reasons is we have people in the church are struggling with doubt and unbelief. And so there was a kind of, in certain theological circles, maybe even around here in certain theological circles, it was a kind of, in the past, it was like, what's apologetics? Those are just, amateur theologians. That was a joke. Okay. Anyway, you didn't laugh. So, okay.
Yeah, that's right. That's
right. Okay, you're laughing now. Maybe at me. But I think once you're dealing with a mother whose son is saying, I don't believe this stuff anymore, all of a sudden you become an apologist. All of a sudden, when you're talking to somebody and they're like, I'm really struggling with evil and suffering. At that moment, you're an apologist. I mean, you're not a professional apologist. You might have the gift, but at that moment, even how do you offer, a word of encouragement, or where do you point them? But certainly for pastors who they're coming, you're the front line of these questions. And so for me, apologetics isn't separated from everything else we do in theological education, but like preaching and like counseling, it's bringing all those things together, all of the disciplines, New Testament, Old Testament, history and doctrine, ethics, all those things. And then there's this moment of ministry. And and you're called to point them to Christ, to help them doubt their doubts, help them with their unbelief. And to me, that's just so much when I was in pastoral ministry, what I found myself doing. And really, a book I wrote years ago called Telling a Better Story was just the kind of framework and the type of thinking of, okay, how do I step inside where people are at? How do I understand the story that's actually dominating their kind of the way they're thinking, the story that they're in that just feels normal? And then how do I help them see the problems of that, and then how Christianity really is a better story, how they want to worship God and how that's better than worshiping whatever they're worshiping. And to me, this was the kind of grid that the kind of gospel persuasion day in and day out. And so now when I go to actually speak at churches, they typically want me to come do something on evangelism. And we start talking about cultural narratives, and we start talking about what's going on in culture and the actual stories that are dominating out there. But very quickly, it gets really kind of uncomfortable for most people, because it's like, actually, this is the stories that we're living, the story of achievement, the story of I'm in control, I want more control, I want to extend more of my reach. And then we just kind of baptize the gospel into that. And very quickly, it becomes, yes, what started off as a conversation about how to do evangelism becomes really an opportunity to repent and believe again. And so because we are catechized by the culture, it's not simply culture out there, but it's culture all around us. And so the kind of cultural exegesis, the kind of understanding what's going on and how our hearts are being formed and our desires are being formed, and then countering that with true belief in the gospel story, to me, is just part and parcel with ministry. Yeah. And so that's why I'm very happy to call it whatever people want to call it. Let's take people to Christ. Let's destroy false. Let's show the emptiness of false idols and the problems with unbelief. And let's point people to Jesus and make much of him. And then if we want to call it, well, anything, that's fine with me. But we've called it cultural apologetics, and I guess I'm okay with it, Collin.
Finally, all those debates across the thin walls on the third floor.